I'm excellent at silence. To the point where my wife thinks I'm mad at her all the time. Because I also, and it runs in my family, we have a very particular resting bitch face.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Music Makes Sense, the podcast that talks about why music is easy and why life is hard. Welcome back, everyone, for season 2. Woo! We made it. We are in the big leagues now, baby. I want to give a big shout out to my friend Destiny for doing the amazing mural back there. I want to thank April for letting us rent out her space. And most thankfully, I want to thank our guest today. He is a drummer, a husband, and he's probably one of the dudes with the biggest resting B-word face that I know. Everyone, please welcome Andrew.
You're not wrong.
Sorry,
You're
man,
not wrong.
I had to use that as ammunition.
And it runs in the family. I get it from my father, and so did my sister. They know which one.
So what's going on, man? How's your day going?
Not too bad today. It's a beautiful day out there. A little warm, but that's all right. I was working inside most of the day, but
It feels very muggy. Feels like Florida, but I feel wrong saying that because I feel like Floridans would look at this weather and be like, "That's just that's mild."
Yeah, they have like 80% humidity as a baseline or something.
I can't do it.
I don't miss that. That's like the one thing that I don't miss about. I grew up in Nova Scotia. Like that's the biggest thing that I do not miss is the humidity. Ugh. Yeah, it's just sticky.
Actually, so did you grow up in Nova Scotia?
I did.
How long?
Let's see. I was born in Calgary, but the rest of my family, my siblings, were all born in Nova Scotia, along with my mother. So they moved back there when I was like a year and a half old, or almost 2 years old, and then I left in 2009. So, 18 years.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you grew up on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So like what's the difference between the music in the East Coast versus here? Like as in like the bar scene, the band thing, like the business. What's the difference?
That is a good question because I don't really know. I only have a small glimpse of what's happening in the music scene that I grew up in. I have a couple of friends that are still there. They're playing the bar scene now. They seem to be fairly busy doing it, which is great. But when I was growing up there, especially through high school, the local band scene was really, really good, and we were all doing like mostly original tunes, and we'd put on like teen dances at the Legion. We'd have a few hundred kids show up in a town of 5,000 people. So it was it was a really fun time. We were playing a lot of. We called it like rocktronica or something. It was basically kind of like electronic dance music, but played by a band.
I love that.
It was so much fun. We've had some jams like that when we're in rehearsals, like people are taking a smoke break or something, and we kind of rip into those jams where it's just, grooving, 4 on the floor. Sometimes when Chris was there, sometimes, he was very much in that scene. He was in one of the more popular bands too in town, along with our high school band. So that was kind of it. It was really led by bands, or sort of brought out by bands like Slow Coaster and Jimmy Swift Band, Grand Theft Bus, Scientist to Sound eventually. So it was really... They were kind of the bigger people on the scene, like out of Halifax, out of Sydney, whatever. They would play the festivals around there, and But when they showed up, when they rolled through town and played the local pub, the place was jammed like all night, line up out the door every time. Like it was, those were really, really fun, and they were doing that same kind of thing.
I haven't been to too many bars in the East Coast because I just haven't been legal that long. I feel like my gut's telling me that there's a lot more emphasis on like the entertainment aspect of it more than the like almost like romantic, artistic side of like writing songs and being real super like serious about it, like almost pretentious. I don't know. That might not be true, but like I think of like when I think of East Coast music, I think of like the Great Big Sea. I think of like music that's about celebrating life, music that's about, like it's hard. Like East Coast living is hard, but at the end of the day, we're here, we're surviving, we're here with our family. It's just it's very like. It's not like Seattle brooding grunge. And I find Alberta is a little bit more like we can lean more into the seriousness a little bit, and that kind of like if you're trying to have like fun music, I find like that can be a little iffy rather like than just focusing on the entertainment side of music and making that more fun. I don't know. I guess I'm trying to say that I personally more align with like more like entertainment style music rather than like sit down and really like consider what's happening on stage, I guess. Okay.
That's interesting. 'Cause I find myself, I like that. Not necessarily sitting there, but I'm obviously a huge fan of music, but in particular live music. I love watching people play, perform. I absolutely love it. And I like really watching and doing that. And I probably put on my resting bitch face and then people think I'm not having a fun time or whatever, but really, it was like this past weekend, I Mother Earth, they played at Hello Summer. They had a percussionist with them, and their synth and keys player also did percussion, and like the singer would do percussion sometimes, but they had a full-on percussionist, congas, timbales, blocks, chimes, bongos. It was great. And I couldn't take my eyes off them the whole time. I was just so intrigued by what they were doing with the percussion, because you just don't see that very often.
Yeah.
Especially, on the stage in Fort McMurray like that at a rock festival, you're doing good, so many of those drummers hold it down on their own, but for them to expand that out in a really fun way, it was really interesting to watch.
Doing that festival I did a couple weeks ago with where I had to fix the board. I'm not even going to say the name because I'm going to butcher it. Janvier. Yeah. When I was over there, Daniel, one of the sound techs that I was working with, he plays in an electronic percussion line kind of thing where it's like him and like four other dudes, and like they're all doing percussion, and it's all like EDM bass and then like live percussion. It's
nice.
I've seen photos of it. I didn't see any videos, but like it looks like Blue Man Group, but like the dark side of
Nice.
that. Yeah, it sounds intense.
Yeah, that's something I'd be interested in seeing for sure.
What's it like growing up with a musical brother?
Well, I was very spoiled, as you're aware, and everyone is aware that knows him. He's a fantastic musician. He's a great songwriter, and so I was always spoiled because we always played together. So, anyone is very fortunate to get to play with him, and so that was great. Right from my very first time playing drums, he was there, and first bands that I played in was with him. We also played with our father, the three of us. My father was he did music professionally for
Really?
2.5 decades, all throughout the Maritimes.
Want to plug him?
Brian Pottie. Yeah.
Any music out that we can listen to?
Yeah. He does have. He's got a couple of original albums out, and he'll post stuff on social media and all that stuff. But one of them you probably won't be able to find. That's from I don't even know how long ago. It's probably mid-90s. Soul of the Poet was that album. And then he did another one after leaving Fort McMurray. So in the 2010s, Dancing Borealis.
Okay.
Yeah. That one I'm sure is available on streaming platforms and stuff. I think so.
And like you said, like Maritime Canadiana acoustic.
Yeah, folk. Very much a folk musician, and that's what we grew up around. Because that's what he played. He'd play for us. That and his old like 60s and 70s rock. A lot of Pink Floyd, lots of Zeppelin. The Who. but a lot of Pink Floyd. But there was so much more of a focus on the folk music.
Do you think the progressive, like the 70s rock came in like his youth, and then he like fell into the maritime traditional music, and that was like he felt like he could have his voice there, or did like the love of Pink Floyd and all that come like all together?
That just kind of came because he was interested in music at that point. I believe most of it, they'd have the radio on or something in the house, but I think it was his Uncle Archie, that had like a record collection or had some old records. So I'm pretty sure he would go there because he lived just down the street. I think he would go there and listen to records, and then finally he got his own record player, and then he started exploring what was popular at the time, or what was the alternative at the time, or whatever it was. But he would still always come back to that, the Gordon Lightfoots and the Stan Rogers and whatnot.
It almost feels like when you have that home foundation of the real rootsy acoustic music, you can almost appreciate the more far out stuff a little bit more because you have a home base to kind of recognize. Because probably even like the dudes who were making that music at that time, like their first inspirations were like 40s, like traditional and like classical music, and like they didn't have rock music to make rock music.
Yeah, exactly. That's like Stan Rogers. He considered himself he was a contemporary artist, whatever that meant in the late 70s or whatever.
I wonder what, I guess no, it doesn't really exist now, but it'd be interesting to think about like what genre like we would have now. Because like, of course, like there was a whole like microcosm of music back then, but with enough time, you can almost like you can generalize like the genre of music that happened. Like in like the 90s, it was grunge. Like universally in the 80s, it was hair metal and like disco and like electronic pop. In the 70s, it was like classic rock, yacht rock, progressive, like stuff like that. I wonder like what like the 2010s is like recession pop and like bro country and like that stuff. And I wonder like what like
bro metal.
Yeah. What's 2020 gonna be like? What are we gonna be known for? Because we're halfway through it now.
Yeah. What is it? Yeah, I guess whatever you call, like, I don't know what she's classified as, but like Billie Eilish would be one of the big ones. I mean, I guess it's easy, kind of a little easier with Taylor Swift. I get, just thinking of the big ones.
Taylor Swift almost like
it's pretty pop.
She transcended the like she is main, like the definition of mainstream.
Yeah.
Like she came up like right at the tail end of the record thing where like you could still be a pop star and have like a bunch of record support and do that. And then she like blended into the streaming thing with all the trailer versions and stuff. And I guess that's a great example of like keeping up with the times and not letting yourself fade away.
But yeah, I don't know what you'd actually call it.
Why were
not
drums,
not that it needs to be, but
were drums like, was it like obvious that you were going to be a drummer, or was
no, not at all. There was no drum, like we didn't have drums in the house at all. I started out, picking away at a guitar. Dad would show us some stuff. Chris caught on to it really quickly. Those are still like the three things that I can play on a guitar. Yeah, that's about it, really. And no, so I didn't even get exposed to drums until I started going. It was grade 7. Yeah, it was grade 7. That was the first time we had a music class where there was an actual drum kit. Other than simple percussion stuff that you do in elementary school. So there was a drum kit there, and we were all kind of just taking turns cycling through the different instruments. That was the structure of the class. And when I finally came to the drums and picked up drumsticks for the first time, and I was kind of able to do the simple rock beat that she had written on the board, I was like, oh, okay, well, I can do that. And then, there'd be more, it'd be a new groove, or she'd go through different stuff, and I'd do that. And then during that time, Dad was playing in a band. Jack Miner, maybe. I don't know. But they were doing some bar gigs and you know, dances and whatever. So in their rehearsal space, Buddy had his drums set up, and so I, you know, Chris and I, we went over and just kind of sat there and doing what I was doing in music class, just kind of laying down a beat, and Chris just kind of started strumming away and just doing, I don't even know what we played, honestly. I couldn't tell you.
That's like the pivotal school of rock moment.
Just nothing, yeah. And it's like, oh, well, I mean, I can kind of do this. And by do this, meaning I could do a, you know, 4 on the floor rock beat for more than 8 measures, you know, or maybe I could do it for 8 flawlessly. Probably not. Probably still can't. But you know, that's really how I started. So I would have been like 12 years old or 12 or 13 years old before I actually started playing. Yeah.
It's beautiful when you're a kid. Like you can having someone to guide you and guide you, but also give you the space to like experience and like flub up. It's magical because like if you know, you probably only felt comfortable to do that because you had people around you who gave you the space to like, you know, make you think that you were playing really well. Because I know, and that sounds a little mean. Because when I was a kid, I know I could, you know, I started playing bass, and I played with my mom's friend, and he would just let me go, and I'd play the songs. And in hindsight, I was probably, you know, all over the place, you know, barely playing notes, like messing everything up, but to that little 8-year-old kid, it was the world. And like, if he would have just like nailed down on me, like, and made me do it perfect, or like didn't give me the space to just like enjoy the music, I definitely wouldn't have loved it. So like, I think it's really important to like, if people are experiencing like an inspiration, like just let them have an inspiration for a minute. Yeah. And you know, there can always be improvement later.
And that's, you know what, that really reminds me of, or, you know, brings back the memories of, like I was saying, those little jams that we would do. Well, that was the kind of music that we were writing with these like subtle dynamic shifts and stuff. But so much of that is just locking in on something, but then leaving the space so that for anyone who's in that groove, you know, guitar, bass, some drums, you know, maybe another guitar, whoever was playing, everyone can kind of start, you know, you're kind of vamping along little things. Oh, now there's a little bit more of an open hi-hat. Ooh, okay, energy's up a little bit. Ooh, maybe I can hit some other little hammer on or something like that. Just little things, but that's just it. You kind of lock in and stay there for a while, and leave that space open for everyone to get their chance to kind of feel it out and feel out that groove, and it can really take shape into something pretty interesting. You know, just having some fun with it, you know, just, you know, it's a smoke break or whatever, but I mean, that's exactly what we would do, and having that space to just explore that it is really good. So yes, so you're definitely correct. Like that's definitely what it felt like, you know, and how it's always felt playing with him. I think he has a good ear for it, and I feel like that kind of rubbed off on me too. Like I like to find my spot in that song, and you know, you can't just force it. And when it's forced, I don't have as much fun with it. And you know, and that happens sometimes. And sometimes you kind of got to force it and it grows on you, but I don't know.
That just rings to the Grateful Dead for me, and jam bands, and that whole idea of like, hey, we're just like 4 or 5 people in a room. We all kind of have this like platform of music to play around. Yeah. And then other than that, we're all letting the universe decide what's going to happen. Yeah. And like, I don't know, a lot of people don't like the Grateful Dead and jam bands for that, but I think that's like, if you want to like think about art like life isn't great all the time. Life isn't happy all the time. It's like, it's not easy, and the gears aren't meshing all the time. You're going to have friction. It's going to be rough. And I think a lot of people in music, they don't really give a lot of space for that friction. and they kind of expect it just to be absolutely perfect, and this thing where there's no tension, or the tension is planned to a point where it's almost not even tension anymore. It's just a part of the song. And I don't know, I think I resonate a lot more with the rough around the edges, finding that space, kind of letting the audience breathe and like letting them latch on to a part, and you latching onto the audience a little bit and kind of picking up their energy and seeing what they want, what direction they want the night to go. And and like even going back to like the part of like entertaining versus like serious music, it's a super entertaining thing to like be locked in with a band as an audience member, and you can almost anticipate where they're going to go, and you can almost feel that thing.
Yeah. And I like, I mean, you have to do it. I mean, if you're not doing it, you should be doing it, but like paying attention to your bandmates on the stage too, and if you're in that kind of a improvised moment, like you really got to dial in and keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah.
'Cause, nothing sucks more than a crappy ending, you know what I mean? Like a mess of an ending. You want to, or whatever it is, just any kind of transitions and stuff.
Well, what's the old adage?
Locked in and tight.
People care about how it starts and it ends. That middle bit doesn't really matter.
Especially the ending, man. Yeah.
How was playing on Canada Day on the same stage as 3 Days Grace and all the other big bands?
Well, that was a lot of fun. It was great playing with Shantelle Davidson there. And then, of course, someone like her, she gets lots of great players. Darren Ehler, and one of your former guests there, Dan Gillies.
Actually, all three. The whole band's going to be on. I got Darren
good.
coming
And
on,
then Ruben was
coming
on that too. Perfect. There you go. They're awesome folks to play with. They're very good at what they do, and I always feel so much less prepared than anyone else. Like they're all so good at just learning their parts and really nailing it down. I feel like I always feel like I'm going in there and letting people down with how prepared I am. It usually works out, but I don't know.
I think it's just imposter syndrome, because I'm sure Dan feels the same. I'm sure everyone feels the exact same way before they come in. Like it's very rare. Right. Like in a situation like that where it's not like my primary bread and butter band, I always feel like, it's a surprise. You don't know what you're walking into. It's almost like having that jam and being in that moment of your head's in a swivel, but you don't really have, but you're on guardrails. And if you don't kind of hit those beats, then bad stuff's going to happen.
Yeah.
Is there any do you find there's a difference playing on like a 50-foot stage versus like a 5-foot stage?
Oh yeah, I have way more fun. I have more fun because I don't have to pay as close attention to the volume of the drums. Right, because when you're on the small stage in the bars, you have to play to the room. I can't bring out my super loud cymbals and my, a big brass snare drum when I'm playing to a room that's 30 feet deep, or, you just can't do it. You're gonna give the sound guy a hell of a time. And, I know that from experience. A friend of mine told me once, he says, you play drums like you're mixing from front of house. Like you try and make, you don't want to overpower the room. No one's having a good time then. So when I don't have that in the back of my head the whole time and I'm just free to play them with as much power and dynamic as I want, it's a lot of fun, and I get really into it.
Yeah,
absolutely. It probably shows. Like I feel like I do a lot more rocking or like kind of dancing or whatever when I'm on those stages.
Well, that sounds like the classic like difference of like traditional jazz versus like rock and roll. Of jazz, you're in a corner of a room and that's all you got. You're only going to be as loud as the upright bass player. So if you clank your ride too hard or crack a snare, everyone's going to turn their eyes, look at you, and then now all of a sudden that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
We're like rock and roll. By nature, it's drums first, as loud as they can go. Guitar amp, as loud as it will go. Everything as loud as it will go. And you can even like hear that in like the Motown stuff versus like the Sound City stuff. Like all the Motown stuff, it's 11 people crammed into a room this big, and the drummer, he got 2 drummers. They can only go so loud.
Yeah.
And Sound City, they're just in studio, room A, live room, drummer, go for it. Have as many, 4-room mics everywhere.
And it's interesting too. Like the most important thing on a jazz drummer's kit is his ride cymbal.
I heard this. Yeah.
So that's like the big focus in for a jazz drummer is like, oh, check out this ride that I got, this amazing ride cymbal. The snare drum and stuff, so much of that is like ghost notes and then accents for doing your fills and whatnot, or a good cross stick. But it's so much more important to have that really nice ride cymbal to match the music that you're doing. Whereas with rock, and it's all about that snare drum, I think. I think, that's one of the reasons why everyone, if you're sharing a drum kit, okay, kick, toms, most of the hardware, but everyone brings their own cymbals and snare drums because that's kind of that kind of shapes your sound more than the toms do. Because,
a tom's only ever going to sound like a tom.
it's going to be a tom. As long as it's tuned up well, you can have a pretty inexpensive acoustic drum kit sounding great. Decent heads on it with, tuned up, tuned well. Excuse me. Shouldn't have had the ginger ale.
But a crappy snare drum's going to sound like a crappy snare drum.
And same with cymbals. Like they just...
I did notice
they
that.
They just don't really...
I bought a Gretsch like student kit, and it came with like Planet Z cymbals.
Yeah, exactly,
and I have a set of like mid-range, I forget what they are, but like mid-range cymbals, and then I have like a couple of those Planet Z cymbals, and like the A, B, like I almost use the Planet Zs as like trashes and as like just like effect cymbals. I couldn't imagine actually using that as like a crash sound.
Yeah, they're man. Yeah, they're made of it's a different metal in the cheaper cymbals, so basically all good quality, higher end, not even higher end, but like good lines of cymbals are made of B20 bronze.
Okay.
Whatever that means.
Sure.
B20 bronze. So that's kind of the standard for decent cymbals. But they're expensive, man. Like it's so brutal.
Everything's expensive.
Everything is. Everything with music is for sure.
I was just talking drums.
But drums
in particular are expensive.
Man. Yeah.
Going back to that ride cymbal thing of like in jazz, the ride cymbal leads the band.
Yeah.
To me, that's like the difference of Mitch Mitchell versus like any other rock drummer of that era. Of like Mitch Mitchell is like of Jimi Hendrix. If you listen to that stuff, like his right hand is leading most of the stuff,
right?
And his like kick drum is mostly just doing feathers and like accents,
right?
And it's very like trad, jazz based. And then you listen to like Buddy Miles, where he's more of like church soul music, kick and snare.
Yeah.
And it's just grooving like in a different way. I love Mitch Mitchell and I love Buddy Miles, but it's very interesting hearing those two different schools of thought and how like leading with the kick drum versus leading with the, ride cymbal, it's a completely different feel.
And I think, that's like some of the early drummers that really started breaking away from, I guess, what was traditional drumming at the time. And you could hear it in their grooves too, because they're still playing some of those grooves, like a shuffle or definitely getting lots of swing in there and stuff. But then they like start wailing on the kick and the snare and the hi-hats and really laying into the crashes, like John Bonham.
Yeah.
Rock and roll. That's a shuffle. Speed that up and start straightening it out. And because that's what he's doing that whole song too. He's ghost noting every on the snare along with the hi-hat. So he's doing eighth notes on that snare with the 2 and 4 accents. But that makes it really hard to play, but you got to play it right. When you don't have that snare in there, you don't get that same energy. And when you listen to that song next time, like, man, that groove, that intro is like a train coming down the tracks and then everyone kicks in. What a great song. But it comes from a simple shuffle, da, 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 where you kind of match that up anyway, your hats and your snare drum, and so that's like an example where you hear that coming through. A band like Van Halen, they have so much swing in their music, lots of it.
You can hear
makes it very, very challenging.
Wolfgang, you can hear like Wolfgang Van Halen. He goes on and on and on and on about how like Alex and Eddie, how like it was the rhythm playing that was the band, not the fancy leads, not the tapping, none of that. It's just the energy and just the swing that they had. And I definitely think I subscribe. We are in a snow globe right now. I definitely think I subscribe more to like the trad drumming gone into rock mode more than like classic just rock drumming school. I don't know, it feels. I don't know. It's I feel the swing a little bit more in that groove a little bit more than like I know some people they love just just like AC/DC, Kiss, just straight rock and roll.
Yeah.
And I find that's almost a little too sterile for me. Like I want that triplet in there. I want a little bit of funk.
You got to keep it. It has to stay interesting for me as a player as well. That's a big part of it. So I love having little things or little stops. Or I was like, okay, whoa, how many shots are we doing here? I want that. I want that nailed in because it makes for such a great moment. But I came going through high school. It was a very jazz and Latin based music class. Our teacher was an incredible musician. We were very fortunate to have him. He would have been the same music teacher, Brent Bannerman. He some of the Trues they went to the same school, so like he taught some of those guys too, and lots of great musicians. And he was tough, but like he didn't take any shit either. And he'd crack all the jokes. Andrew, check your passport. Are you Russian? You tell me, Brent. Yeah, but
definitely not like Fletcher and Whiplash, not throwing chairs at you.
No, nothing like that. Just striking you down with his words, but in a fun way. No, he was great. I loved that music class. It was a highlight every day. But that's where that's where I learned most of like drumming. Was from that music class. Like that's not where I learned most of my drumming. That's the extent of the formal education that I've had with drumming. So it was very based in locking in on a really good, just simple swing groove or a bossa nova or a couple other little Latin things, but that was a lot of it. So, and you're playing with acoustic instruments. You're playing with horns and whoever else is in the class. Maybe there's a bass and a guitar. But you got to match that volume, and we're in a music room and he's not going to let you wail on it. It's going to be next, because there's probably 5 people that are playing the drums.
Right.
So
and that probably adds
rotate
a whole
through.
Other thing of like, you want to be, first place. I'm assuming you want to be first chair.
Yeah. I mean, more time on the drums, which he was always fair about it. He was definitely fair about it, which was great. And then I would go and play some other percussion instrument, maybe a marimba or, some shakers or claves or something, just so that you're not just sitting there doing it and doing nothing at all. So that was a good experience for sure. And so, yeah, back, like you're saying, coming through more traditional, coming up through that. So I kind of did a little bit, just with music class. I never really used that anywhere else. I've done a couple jazz gigs and played in the jazz band here briefly, like for a few sessions, really.
It's not really,
but it was fun. It's not my main thing, but I like coming back to it every now and then because I can hang out a little bit with with those tunes.
I guess that's really like what music is and like your genres of like how like can you hang? Like can you go to a bar and play a bunch of like Stone Temple Pilots tunes? Can you go to a jazz club and play Misty and whatever.
Yeah.
Can you go to a funk bar and play like Superstition? Like,
Yeah.
What's your hang?
Yeah, I like being able to do. I like doing a lot of that. If I had to choose one genre, then I couldn't play anything else ever again. I would choose funk because that's where I have the most fun, because that's the type of music where you can go on pretty long tangents. You can lock in on grooves, make subtle dynamic shifts to kind of guide the song along, and then everyone's giving each other space, but everyone takes the space when it's theirs to take, and you just have so much fun doing that.
I think, and I mean, it's such an open-ended genre. It's almost as open-ended as rock, because like jazz covers funk covers everything from like roots jazz to like Cuban music to like American blues, like everything.
Even to like EDM, like Daft
yeah.
Punk is very like funky kind of music.
I went through a big electro swing phase back in like 2019.
Oh yeah.
It was because like I never really like got into EDM music, because it's almost like the same thing as like the rock music. Like it's almost a little too straight ahead.
Yeah.
But the electro swing just got me, because it's like, I could swing and I could dance to it, and I don't know, I internalized that a lot more.
Was that mostly performed or whatever, like by DJ, like produced like that, not a live band? Because that would be fun stuff to play.
If you could get like some dudes with like some CDJs and like figuring out how to, because like it would be groovy, and it almost like the DJ would be the front of house dude, and he would be like low passing and high passing the band. Because that's what the music I would listen to. It would be like it would be like swing samples, and then he would high pass it, and then add a kick drum on top of it.
Oh, okay.
So if you had like a live jazz band and then a DJ mixing the jazz band, that'd be groovy.
I wonder if anyone does that. Like they just
mixing.
They get the main left and right feed coming from front of house, or whatever. They get that main left and right, and then plug that into a CDJ.
That would be like.
I wonder if it would even work. I mean, I guess it would. It's a line, line input.
It technically would work. I guess you would just have like the band would they would have to not have to, like, they would have to have complete isolation from front of house, because if you're doing like time manipulation, the band got to stay on whatever train they're on. I don't know. That'd be groovy, because like I don't even really know how they do DJs and rock bands. Like, do they just have their samples ready and they just like do their parts? Okay, I've never done that before. Desert Island, or anything you want to take on Desert Island? It could be anything, really.
On the music side of things, what am I taking with me? Definitely a djembe.
Okay.
Definitely my djembe. That's because it's the easiest thing and it's extremely versatile. I love playing my djembe.
I got a better one.
Sure.
You have one carry-on and one backpack to do a gig.
Okay.
What are you taking? No kit provided.
No kit provided?
No kit provided. You got a carry-on and a backpack.
Carry on a backpack. I'll take some cash so I can go rent a drum kit. What am I taking with me to play a gig?
Yeah.
To play drums at a gig.
Someone gave you the amount of money it would take for you to show up to a gig with no drum set, no anything, and just whatever you could find.
I mean, a djembe. I would need a djembe. Yeah, I could, and I have a small. I could even take my small djembe.
Okay.
And like some shakers.
Okay.
And then because that's exactly how I performed many gigs with just that. When I would play with my brother and my father, that's how I would do it. It's funny. There was this small like independent music store in our hometown. We went there one day. Him and Chris, they had a gig booked, some private event. So we hopped out to the music store. I was gonna go and like help them set up, whatever, and just hang out. So we went there, and there was some djembes. I had no idea what they were. Drum. It's a hand drum. A bongo.
A bong. Bongo is the pair. It's the bong.
Yeah. And just kind of started playing it and have no idea how to play it, just hitting it. I was like, oh, yeah, there's some different sounds you can get out of that. And then Dad was like, yeah, you think you can play that? I'm like, I don't know, I guess so. He's like, all right, we'll get it. I was like, so bought this drum, and then that day, I went and played their gig with them. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm trying to, like, mimic a drum kit. Fortunately, I knew most of the songs just from hearing them so many times, hearing, Dad play them. So just kind of followed along, and I can still do that now. Out of anything, it's really, I find it very easy to just kind of sit in and follow along with a djembe. It's extremely forgiving. Mistakes or whatever, or it's super easy to just kind of play through them and cover them up. Whereas not so much with a drum kit, but
yeah. Well, I know with the drum kit, like it's such a well-oiled like engine of if something's out of alignment or timing, then it all falls apart. It's like it is like an engine of if all 6 cylinders aren't firing with the way they're supposed to be.
Yeah,
you can notice a clank in the engine.
Yeah. And the nice thing too with the djembe is you can play it without a bass. So if it's just an acoustic guitar, you can have that hand percussion element in there, and it fits in well. Like it doesn't feel like it's lacking. But if you try that, like just guitar and drums, you have to have something else in there, like a pitch shifter or whatever it is. Like a band like Royal Blood, they play bass and then they would octave it up. 'Cause it sounds better to octave up a bass than it does to octave down a guitar.
Yes,
it sounds more natural. So they'd run it through that and then run it to a guitar amp and to a bass amp, and it just makes this huge sound. So then you can do it. Or a band like Death from Above. Did they play? No, he played bass as well. Which one was it? Japan Droids. That's guitar and drums.
Sure.
But he has this huge amp setup going through all kinds of stuff. So it's a pretty big tone. But it is noticeably not a bass heavy tone. Their music in general. It's definitely, they definitely lean into the mids.
I wonder how much money goes into the kick drum on like those kind of records. Like how much money went into like the White Stripes kick drum sound.
Right. Yeah.
Because like you say, it's there's not a lot of bass information there. So you have a kick drum, some toms, maybe. I'm assuming those bands don't really, play insane music. Like insanely technical music. If it's just 2 instruments, I imagine they focus more on locking in. I don't know. I'd have to listen to them.
I could say that's probably true for a band like Japan Droids. They're like pretty straight ahead rock and roll. But a band like Royal Blood, they're quite technical. Like every song is riff based. The drums, he's very active, doing lots of tom grooves and tom work and stuff. But that really just helps to fill it all out. So
it'd be crazy to see them live and hear that rig.
Oh man, it's amazing. Yeah,
have you seen them?
Yeah, a few times.
Oh geez.
Yeah. They toured with Foo Fighters. I saw them then.
So you also seen the Foo Fighters?
I have.
With Taylor?
Several times. I have, yep. Yeah, I've only seen them with Taylor. I never did see them with Freese there. Well, that was only 2 years. And then didn't see them before Taylor. Several times.
I guess that would have been an underground show, seeing their OG drummer.
I can't remember. What was his name? Will Goldsmith, I think.
I feel really bad not knowing his name.
I think it was Will Goldsmith.
Knowing like how garbage he got treated in the whole deal. I feel like you should know his name, or I should know his name.
Yeah. What do you do? You have one of the best rock drummers going. Hiring you for a drumming gig. It's like, it's gonna, that's already gonna be kind of uncomfortable. But someone like Taylor, he had the chops for it. I think Taylor was. I think he pulled off stuff. I think he was more slick on the drums than Grohl was. I think so.
The way I heard it described to me was, Dave Grohl is always going to sound like Dave Grohl.
Yeah,
and he just needs to find people that like fit the glove of Dave Grohl, and Taylor was like the perfect match for that. And I guess Freese probably wasn't. Which like I don't know. Like it's such a hard, because like at the end of the day they're making really good money doing this kind of stuff. And like, I don't think any party is going to walk away sour from that kind of a thing. I would hope they wouldn't.
Maybe Shane Hawkins, maybe his son is ready to take on the gig. I have no idea. I don't know how old he is, but
well, did he do the whole gig or just a couple songs?
He did. I think he did like 2 songs with them at the tribute show.
I just watched the tribute for George Harrison video again, where like Eric Clapton and like Jeff Lynne, like everyone did like a tribute for George Harrison.
Okay.
And his son Danny was there, and he was like, well, like I was only gonna play a couple songs, but then Eric Clapton came up to me. He was like, "Kid, either you're in or you're out." So then I guess I'm playing the whole show. So then he just had to learn all the songs. And he's played the whole show.
That's awesome.
So I wonder if that's gonna be like the same thing with Shane of like, "Hey, I want to go up and play a couple songs. Kid, you're in or you're out. Learn the set list, or you're or sit in the crowd."
That would be pretty cool to see.
That would have been. Was it Tyson's daughter that played guitar with
For 3 Days Grace? Yeah.
That's insane.
So cool. Yeah, she made this awesome sign and
So it wasn't like a premeditated thing. She just had a sign of like,
she had a
I
sign
know this
up.
song.
Now I don't know if they always bring people up because they brought like 4 people up on stage.
Oh, okay.
It was more just like a be on stage thing. They gave them some microphones in case they wanted to sing, and one of them, one of the young ladies, she did sing. She was great dancing around and everything. But oh yeah, little Emma, little Emma, she's like 15 now, but she was rocking out. Yeah, grabbed that guitar, no hesitation at all, man. She just started going and was rocking out. Hopped up on the riser, like, oh yeah, oh, it was great.
I wonder, like, so I know like Foo Fighters do that a lot. Green Day does that a lot. Like a lot of bands do that. I always wonder, like, at what level do you have to like do they ever screen the people before, or is it always just like a moment of the decision of like we hope it works out?
I think that's what it is for the band, but I honestly think that anyone that's in the crowd that's like, let me do it, they can probably do it.
Sure. Oh, okay. So you don't think like there's not going to be.
I don't think you're going to get like a hack that hops up on stage, just be like, oh, and doesn't know how to play.
You'd be found,
especially for like drums, like, because let's be honest, you can miss like half a verse on the bass. It's going to be noticeable.
But you're going to be okay.
The song's going to keep going. Man, when the drums are just like way off, it's so hard to keep it together because it's it's the that foundation that everyone else is jumping in, whatever that they're all standing on, because it's keeping everyone together.
Did you catch the that last Aussie show on Saturday?
I've only been seeing clips of it. I didn't see it.
I watched it, and it's I'm gonna try and be very careful the way I place my words, because I don't think anyone has any right to disrespect Bill Ward at all as a drummer, because I mean, like, he made metal drumming,
right?
But seeing the difference of like the Ozzy Osbourne set with like Zakk Wylde and like his boys versus the Black Sabbath set with the OG members.
Oh, okay.
It was way easier to get emotional at thinking about Ozzy going away when the band is kicking full force and it's Ozzy singing the songs full force.
Right.
Because, like you said, it's the drums, like the song's not stopping. And when the Black Sabbath set happened, it was still very emotional and still very hard, and I still wept, but I felt it was a little bit more of like a admiration rather than like an emotion of like, oh wow, these, like, it's so crazy that like they're still doing this. Because
how was the performance? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Is like, it's, you respect them more for doing it more than being like, damn, that was a fire Black Sabbath performance.
If I can pick up drumsticks and sit behind a kit when I'm 80 or whatever he is, I'm sure he's somewhere around that, I'll be thrilled. But
I heard stories of in the 70s he would play a set and then go immediately on oxygen because he would just go so hard. Like those videos of, I want to say like 1970 of when they're hitting their first 2 albums, and he's like, it's
I need to
stuff.
like see some old videos of that.
watching the whole concert, made me realize like how impactful Ozzy has been in my life, and how foundational Black Sabbath has been in my musical education.
Right.
Like, I've graduated a little bit further from like Paranoid in the first couple albums, but like it's just textbook. It's like Led Zeppelin.
Do you know, when were those out? Do you know? Like the early Sabbath?
So the first Black Sabbath was 1969.
Oh,
and then
really?
And then Paranoid was also 1969.
Wow, I didn't know it was 69.
And then I think Masters of Reality was 1970, and I think Volume 4 was 72.
Wow.
By 76, I think they did Sabotage, which was the last one with Ozzy, I think. And that was the one where they were real up there and hitting all cylinders and doing all the crazy stuff.
What was there really anything before them? Or is that? I mean, because they're credited as like the fathers of metal.
There was
right?
like dark psychedelic music, like the Moody Blues, maybe. I think Frank Zappa was doing some stuff, but it wasn't like that. It was more like psychedelic based.
Right.
Pink Floyd was doing stuff.
Well, even then, like I was gonna say, the early Pink Floyd at that point. What did they have? Piper at the Gates of Dawn,
Adam Hart Mother,
and Saucer Full of Secrets.
Yeah.
So I guess Saucer Full of Secrets had some. But was Saucer Full of Secrets? I guess that was right. That was the same time, basically. Yeah.
Oh,
That's right.
Alabama was 1969.
Right.
If
Okay.
you've listened to that one.
I have. Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Several species of furry animals gathered together.
Many species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave and grooving with the picked.
There you go. That was great. The first all of the Sisyphus stuff, like that's a crazy album. I was being like 11 years old and just like genuine, just beating on the piano.
Nice.
Yeah, it's intense.
Yeah. I just listened to metal today.
I think that's my number 2. I think Animals 1, Metal 2.
Nice. Oh,
Anyway,
Animals
continue.
is just fantastic. But yeah, metal. Yeah, that was great.
They
Listening to it at work today. It's great.
I really do enjoy, like, if you go back to like when they made it, they were insecure about that record because they were like kind of still floundering, not really knowing what to do.
It's kind of a mix, like
some singles and then
kind of back to some Piper at the Gates of Dawn kind of stuff with like someone's in the kitchen with or Seamus, that's the dog. It's kind of that the old school Pink Floyd, even at that time, and then just like, well, maybe it's more of a mix of the two because Saucer Full of Secrets was pretty haywire.
Yeah, with like,
but then you get like Echoes and one of these days, but then Echoes. It's always been one of my favorite songs. I love Echoes, man.
Do you have
some of my favorite lyrics are in that song?
Like a special section?
No.
I think.
Well, you know what? It always hits hard when they come back in on the verse after the big solo section. Because it's just this huge crescendo, and then boom, they blast right into. I walked myself right into this corner. I can't remember how the third verse starts, but anyway, it's a huge moment, and then boom, it's straight back into the vocals after like 20 minutes of whatever's going on. Yeah.
I had no idea that this is how oblivious to lyrics that I am. I had no idea that song was about the ocean. Zero idea.
I mean, see, I honestly don't pay attention to like the meaning of the lyrics in songs very
the first
often.
Lyric, the albatross.
Overhead, the albatross hangs motionless above the air. Yeah. There's references in there for sure. Is it specifically about the ocean?
I think.
It could be. I have no idea.
I think his name is 12 Tone. He's a YouTuber. He does like. He dissects songs, and he really creative way. He'll have like a page of what's the blank sheet music called? Like it's just like a page of like the lines of
staff.
Yeah, so he has like blank staffs, and he'll write in like this a little bit of notation. Then he'll do doodles on top of it, and then it'll be a video essay breaking down the song, and he'll like do it in that format. It's really Cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, I think this was a fantastic episode.
Hmm?
Do you have anything to plug?
Not really. Just playing. I've been playing quite a bit lately.
What bands you playing in?
Playing with Brandon Bryson, of course, alongside you. I recently played with Shantelle Davidson there, and also played with her in Lady Luck with some other fine folks, and Ruben and Johnston and the La Prairie's. Man, I love playing with Ryan La Prairie. He's so great. And just some other like fill-in gigs. I end up doing a decent amount of those.
So
some of those last-minute gigs.
Anyone in Alberta needs a fill-in drummer, Andrew is your guy.
Just, if at all possible, like 2 weeks' notice minimum, please.
2 weeks notice. Okay.
It's tough, man. But
2 weeks notice and provide a drum kit. He does not want to bring his djembe.
I'll do that. Yeah, you probably don't want it though. Yeah, no, just playing. Yeah, just playing.
Awesome, dude.
Having some fun with it.
That was great. Hell yeah.
Cool.
Does it make sense? Oh, I'm covered in hair.
Oh yeah.
Covered in hair. How'd we go? Hour and 4 minutes on the dot.
Okay.
That's not bad.
Hi, I'm Corey, Beats in a Box manager.
And I'm Mel.
And this is Music Makes Sense. Hi, I'm Justin McNeil from Beats in a Box. And this is Music Makes Sense.
Hi, I'm Hannah, Applewood Animal Dog on TikTok, and this is Music Makes Sense.
Hey, it's Andrew Pottie at It's Mrs. Pottie on Instagram, and this is Music Makes Sense.
I'm Jesse Death from the Fomites, and this is Music Makes Sense. We're the Lighthearted, and this is Music Makes Sense.
Hey, this is Darren with Rock the Rails, and this is Music Makes Sense.
Hey, this is James from Crosswood, and this is Music Makes Sense.
It's your boy Nickelbutter, the hottest rapper in Fort McMurray, and this is Music Makes Sense.
This is Eric from Beats on the Box. This is Music Makes Sense.
Hi, I'm Mike from Supermodel Taxidermy, and this is Music Makes Sense.
Alright, I'm Chris. And I'm Lucas. And we're from Slenderbrain and Deathwish. This is Music Makes Sense.
Hey, this is Andrew Pottie. This is Vera. This is Music Makes Sense.